You see this black bitch? Get out of my bank!
Please, I need this check for my daughter. She needs the hospital.
Out now! Get her out of here!
I need this check for my daughter.
Get in now! Man, get in
The
now!
hospital.
Get out of this bank!
Please, I need this check for my daughter. She needs the hospital.
Out now!
What would you do if you walked into a bank in a foreign land? A place you have every legal right to be, with a legitimate check, a sick child pressed against your side, and every person in that building looked at you like you were a criminal. Not because you did anything wrong, not because anything about your paperwork was insufficient, but simply and completely because you are a black woman, and they decided that was enough of a reason to destroy everything you came there for. Welcome to Black Diamond's story. This is another story about racism. If you are new here, subscribe now and stay until the very end. You will not like how this ends, but you need to see it. You this black bitch, how do you have this kind of money? Security. Get this black woman out of my bank. The words come from behind the counter, like something that has been waiting all morning to be said. Loud enough for the entire lobby to hear. Deliberate enough that there is no possibility of pretending they were not meant to be heard. Security, now get her out. A woman leans across the counter. Park Young-soo, 31 years old. Her name badge is straight and her blazer is pressed, and her voice, when she speaks again, drops just low enough to feel like something being said directly into the ear of the person it is directed at. You know what your problem is? You are a black woman. That is your problem. Standing here with this amount of money on a check signed by a Korean name, acting like this is normal, acting like this belongs to you. It does not belong to you. You did not earn this. People like you do not earn things like this. She straightens up. Her voice returns to its full volume. I want you to leave this bank quietly before this becomes something worse for you. This bank is not for black people. It is not your place. Go somewhere else. 12 customers in the lobby of First Heritage Bank Koreatown branch. Not one of them says a word. But before we go any further into what is happening in this lobby right now, you need to understand how we got here. Because none of this started this morning. None of this started in this rain. To understand what you are watching, you need to go back 1 week. You need to go back to a hospital room and a doctor's voice and a mother sitting in a plastic chair trying to keep her face together while the world falls apart around her. Her name is Diana Cole Park, 34 years old, Black American, born and raised in Atlanta, moved to Koreatown 7 years ago for reasons she did not fully understand at the time and now understands completely. She is the kind of woman who walks into rooms and takes up exactly as much space as she needs, and not 1 inch more. She has learned this precision over a lifetime of being in spaces that were not designed with her in mind. She is warm and she is careful, and she is on this particular morning running on 4 hours of sleep, and the specific adrenaline of a mother who has decided that nothing and no one is going to stand between her and her daughter's survival. Her daughter's name is Amara, 6 years old. She has her father's eyes, dark and steady and already wise in the way of children who have been through something that required wisdom of them too early. She has her mother's mouth, the stubborn set of it, the way it holds its shape even when everything around it is uncertain. She is wearing a soft pink hat this morning, the kind with a small pom-pom at the top, the kind that covers what 3 rounds of chemotherapy have taken from her. Under her coat, if you knew to look, you would see the port. Small and terrible and necessary. A piece of plastic and titanium that has become as familiar to Diana as her own heartbeat. Amara Park was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia 11 months ago. The most common childhood cancer. Also one of the most treatable, the doctors said, if caught early, if treated immediately, if the financial commitment is in place before the window closes. The window. As though her daughter's life is a transaction with a deadline. As though survival comes with terms and conditions. Dr. Reyes called 6 days ago. His voice was careful in the way of doctors who have learned to deliver hard news without breaking the person receiving it. Diana, the bone marrow procedure. We need to move now. The surgical team has a slot, but I need a financial commitment by end of week or they release it to another patient. The total cost, including the procedure, the post-operative treatment, the monitoring, the full course of what Amara needs, is $5 million. I know that number is significant. I know. But if we move quickly, if we secure the funding by Friday, we can save her life. Friday, that was the deadline. Today is Friday. Diana called Jinho the moment she hung up with Dr. Reyes. Her husband. her person. The man who had been on the other side of the world for 3 weeks on business, she does not ask specific questions about because she married him knowing exactly what kind of business it is, and she has made peace with that knowledge in the specific way of a woman who loves someone completely and accepts them entirely. His name is Jang Jinho, 38 years old, Korean. He is publicly described as a real estate developer and international investor with holdings across 6 countries. He is privately understood by the people who matter to be something considerably more than that. He moves through certain rooms in this city with a particular kind of authority that has nothing to do with his net worth and everything to do with his name, and what his name means to the people who have learned to say it carefully. Very few people know the full shape of what Jang Jinho is. Diana is one of them. She married him knowing. She would marry him again knowing. When she told him about Dr. Ray's and the deadline and the $5 million, there was a silence on his end of the line that lasted exactly 4 seconds. She has learned to measure his silences. 4 seconds means he is not thinking about the problem. He has already solved it. "Check your email tomorrow evening," he said. "I'm handling it." The check arrived by courier the following night. An envelope handed to her at the door by a man in a black jacket who bowed once and left without speaking. Inside, a check, $5 million, drawn on Park Global Holdings, signed in Jinho's hand, made out to Diana Cole Park. She called him immediately. "It cleared," he said before she could speak. "It is legitimate. Take it to the bank first thing Friday morning. Go early before the rush starts. Cash it. Take the confirmation straight to Dr. Ray's. I am coming home. 2 days. Go early." She had written it on her hand with a pen the way she used to write reminders in college. Go early. Beat the rush. Get it done. Get Amara to the hospital. She went to bed with the check on her nightstand and her hand on Amara's back, and the first real sleep she had managed in weeks because the money was here, and the procedure was possible, and her daughter was going to be okay. She did not, in the relief of that moment, look closely at the additional text printed on the check. She saw Park Global Holdings and Jinho's signature and the amount, and she held it against her chest for a moment before placing it on the nightstand. She did not read the small text along the bottom that lists, as is standard on corporate checks, the board members and primary shareholders of Park Global Holdings. She did not see the name at the top of that list. She would understand the significance of that name later, much later, after everything. Friday morning comes with rain. Not light rain. Not the kind you walk through quickly and shake off. The kind that arrives before dawn and settles in with intention, heavy and cold, and completely indifferent to what anyone on the ground might need from the day. Diana stands at her window at 6:45 in the morning and looks at it, and thinks about Jinho's voice saying go early, and thinks about Dr. Ray's saying the window closes Friday, and wraps Amara in her warmest coat, and picks up the check and goes. The drive is 22 minutes through rain that turns every traffic light into a smear of colored light on the wet road. Amara is quiet in the back seat, the quiet that worries Diana more than crying, the quiet of a child whose body is working very hard and has less energy for anything else. "Mama." "Yes, baby." "Are we going to the hospital after?" "Yes, baby, right after, just one quick stop first." "I'm cold." "I know, almost there." Diana parks as close to the entrance as she can. She looks at Amara in the back seat and she looks at the rain and she makes the calculation every parent makes. She cannot leave a 6-year-old sick child alone in a car in the rain. She wraps Amara more tightly, pulls the pink pom-pom hat down over her ears and lifts her against her chest, one arm around her daughter. The other hand gripping her bag with the check and the documents inside it. They push through the rain together, through the glass doors, into the lobby. The lobby of First Heritage Bank Koreatown branch is clean and warm and fluorescent lit and smells like fresh carpet and the particular antiseptic cleanliness of a place that takes its professionalism seriously. 3 teller windows, a manager's desk behind glass, a customer service counter along the far wall, a security camera in the corner whose red light blinks steadily. 4 customers ahead of her in line. Diana settles Amara against her hip and takes her place and breathes. Just a few minutes. Then the hospital. Then Dr. Ray's. Then Amara gets better. She holds that sequence in her mind like a prayer. Amara leans her head against Diana's shoulder. Her skin is warm, too warm. Diana presses her lips to Amara's forehead and holds them there for a moment, measuring. The fever is not spiking, but it is present. It is always present. The body's ongoing argument with itself. Window 2 opens. The teller waves her forward. Diana approaches. She settles Amara on the edge of the counter, keeping her arm firm around her, and places the check on the surface. Good morning. I need to cash this check, please. Young-soo looks at the check. Then she looks at Diana. Then she looks at Amara. Then she looks at the check again. The shift that moves through her expression is not subtle. It is not even trying to be subtle. It is the look of a person encountering something that offends them and not seeing any reason to hide it. ID, she says. The word lands like a door being closed. Diana provides her driver's license. Current. Photo matches. Young-soo takes it and looks at it the way you look at something you are already convinced is wrong and are searching for the proof. She types something into her computer, pauses, types again. Her eyes move between the screen and Diana's face in the specific rhythm of someone looking for a discrepancy they intend to find. Do you have another form of ID? Diana opens her bag. Passport, also current, also valid, photo also matches. She places it on the counter. Young-soo holds the passport photograph next to Diana's face, holds it there, long enough for the people behind Diana to notice, long enough to be a statement. And what is your relationship to the account holder? He is my husband. The look that follows is not surprise. It is something harder. The specific expression of a person being told something that does not fit inside their understanding of how things work and choosing, actively and deliberately, not to let it fit. Your husband, Young-soo says again. She says it the way you repeat something back to a child who has said something you know is not true, drawing the word out, tasting the impossibility of it. Yes, Jinho Park, his company's check, his signature is right there. Young-soo sets the check down. She does not look at it properly. She picks up the phone and dials an extension and turns partially away and her voice drops, but Diana hears every word of the Korean that follows because Jinho taught her. 7 years of Tuesday evenings at the kitchen table with flashcards, and the particular patient way he has of explaining things he wants her to know. He wanted her to understand what people say when they think she cannot hear them. What Young-soo says is this. I have a black woman at my window with a check for $5 million from Park Global Holdings. She is claiming the man who signed it is her husband. It is obviously false. She found a Korean name somewhere and printed a check. Call security to stand by. Diana's hand finds Amara's back. She presses there, steadies herself through that pressure. She does not react, not a flicker, not a single muscle in her face moves. She has a lifetime of practice at this. You learn to take the blow without showing where it lands because the moment you show where it lands, they make your reaction the story and bury everything that caused it underneath. Young-soo hangs up and turns back. Her voice is smooth now, professionally smooth. The kind of smooth that makes cruelty sound like procedure. Mrs. Cole Park, this is a very large amount. For transactions of this size, we require additional verification. I need to see business documentation, tax records, proof of relationship to the account holder. I have our marriage certificate. Diana reaches into her bag, places it on the counter. Young-soo glances at it, does not pick it up, does not touch it. The marriage certificate of Diana Cole Park and Jang Jinho sitting on the counter between them, and Young-soo looks at it the way you look at something you have already dismissed. We need more than that. What more do you need? Diana's voice is level. 2 forms of photo ID, our marriage certificate. The check is signed by my husband. His company name is printed on it. What specifically are you missing? Young-soo leans slightly forward. She lowers her voice into something that is almost confidential, almost like she is doing Diana a favor by saying it this way rather than louder. Mrs. Cole Park, let me be honest with you. You are a black woman. You have walked in here from the rain with a sick child and a check for $5 million signed by a Korean man. Do you understand how that looks? Do you understand what that tells us? People do not just walk in here with checks like this, not with your situation. She lets that last word sit. Your situation. I would like to suggest, Young-soo continues, that you leave quietly before this becomes a problem. This bank is not a place where situations like yours get resolved easily. If you leave now, we will not make anything more of this. Diana looks at her, at the check on the counter, at the marriage certificate Young-soo has not touched, at Amara leaning against her side with her too warm skin and her pink pom-pom hat. I am not leaving, Diana says. I want to speak with your manager. Young-soo's expression does not change. She looks at Diana for a long moment. Then she looks past her at the colleague at the adjacent window, Lee Jae-hyun, 28 years old, who has been listening to all of this with her arms folded, and her face arranged in the particular expression of someone who agrees with everything that is being done and is waiting for permission to participate more directly. Young-soo says something to Jae-hyun in Korean. She says it without any concern that Diana will understand it. She is not going to leave on her own. Get Dong-hyun, and get your phone out. This is worth recording. Jae-hyun smiles, reaches for her phone. Diana watches Jae-hyun lift the phone and angle it toward her. She watches a bank employee begin filming her with the specific casual excitement of someone who has found content. Not a crisis, not a person in distress. Content. Amara looks up at Jae-hyun's phone. She looks at the little red recording light. She looks at her mother. Mama, why is she filming us? Diana keeps her eyes on Young-soo. Because some people do not know how to act right, she says quietly. The manager arrives from behind the glass partition. His name is Kim Dong-hyun, 41 years old, branch manager for 6 years. He moves with the measured confidence of a man who has been told there is a situation and has already decided it is beneath him before he arrives at it. He takes in Diana, takes in Amara, takes in the wet coats and the rain still dripping from them onto his marble floor, takes in the check on the counter. He does not pick up the check. He does not look at it properly. Good morning. I understand there is a concern with a transaction. Your staff is refusing to process a legitimate check from my husband's company, Diana says. I have provided 2 forms of photo ID and our marriage certificate. I need this check cashed so I can get my daughter to the hospital for her surgical appointment. I want this resolved. Dong-hyun looks at her, the way people look at traffic. They are waiting for to clear. Mrs. Cole Park. He uses her name the way you use a name when you want someone to feel that they are being managed. My staff has followed our protocol for large transactions. If the verification requirements have not been met, there is nothing I can do to override that. The verification requirements have been met. I have provided everything you legally require. Dong-hyun tilts his head. His eyes move over Diana with the slow assessment of someone who has already made their decision and is simply confirming it. In my professional judgment, he says, the documentation presented does not sufficiently support the legitimacy of this transaction. Based on what? The question sits between them. He does not answer it. He does not need to answer it. Both of them know what it is based on. It is based on the same thing everything this morning has been based on. The same thing Young-soo named out loud a few minutes ago, when she thought she was being generous by saying it quietly. Your situation. Diana opens her bag. She is going to produce every document she has. She's going to lay them on this counter one by one until there is no remaining justification for what is being done to her, and she is going to make Dong-hyun name the real reason in front of witnesses or process the check. One or the other. She reaches into her bag. She has a gun. The voice comes from Jae-hyun behind the counter, loud, sharp, cutting through the lobby like an alarm. She is reaching for a gun. She is going to rob us. Diana freezes. The lobby freezes with her. I am getting documents, Diana says. Her voice is controlled, but the effort of controlling it is visible for the first time. I am reaching for documents. Paper. Look, I will do it slowly. You can see inside the bag there is no. She is going to rob the bank, Jae-hyun says again. Her voice is not frightened. It is performing frightened. There is a difference, and everyone in the lobby can feel the difference, but nobody is saying so. Her phone is still up and still recording, and she is saying it toward the phone as much as toward the room. Dong-hyun looks at Diana, looks at the bag, looks back at Diana. And something shifts in his face. Not fear, not even real concern. Something that looks like opportunity. like a door that has just opened in the direction he wanted this to go. He looks at Amara. He says, loudly enough for the lobby to hear, and somebody verify that this child is actually hers. Because a black woman walking in here with a Korean man's check and a sick child is not adding up to me. I do not know whose child that is. The elderly Korean woman who has been standing in line since before Diana arrived makes a sharp sound. Not a word. The involuntary sound of a person who has been watching something get worse and worse and has just watched it cross a line she did not realize was there until it crossed it. Amara presses closer to Diana. She does not cry. She holds on. Dong Hyun looks at the security guard. Then he looks at Diana. Then he picks up the check from the counter. He holds it between 2 fingers. He looks directly at Diana while he does it. He holds her gaze deliberately, making absolutely certain she is watching, making absolutely certain she understands that this is a choice and not an accident. Then he tears it. Slowly, down the middle. The sound of the paper splitting is the loudest thing in the lobby. Then he tears it again. Quarters. He places the 4 pieces on the counter in front of Diana. One by one, neat, almost ceremonial. This check is fraudulent, he says. I am not processing it and you are not welcome in this bank. Security, remove her from the premises and call the police. I want this woman removed from this property. His voice has the particular satisfaction of a man who has been waiting to say something and has finally said it. He looks at Diana with an expression that has dropped all the way to its real layer, underneath the professional language and the protocol justification, all the way down to what has been driving every second of this morning. You are black, he says, simply, directly, as if this is a sufficient explanation for everything that has just happened, as if it is the only explanation needed. You walked into this bank with this amount of money and this name on a check, and you expected us to simply accept that. That is not how this works. Not here. Not in my bank. He steps back. Police are on the way, he says. I suggest you gather your child and go. Diana looks at the 4 pieces of her check on the counter, at Jinho's signature in 1 quarter, at the Park Global Holdings letterhead in another, at the amount split across 2 pieces that represents Amara's life. She does not pick them up yet. She looks at Dong Hyun, at Young-soo, at Jae Hyun with her phone still raised, at Baeum Seok the security guard moving toward her from the entrance side. She picks up the pieces of the check. Carefully, all 4 of them. She places them in the envelope from her bag. Then she looks at Dong Hyun one more time with the specific expression of a person who is going to remember this moment for the rest of their life, and is making sure the other person understands that. She puts her hand on Amara's back, and she walks toward the door. Baeum Seok follows to make sure she leaves. Outside, the rain hits them immediately, cold and relentless and indifferent. Diana stands on the pavement of First Heritage Bank Koreatown branch with Amara in her arms, and rain falling on both of them, and she breathes. In and out. She breathes the way she has learned to breathe in moments that threaten to take something from her that she cannot afford to lose. The rage and the humiliation and the fear about the surgical slot and the sound of that check tearing are all present, and she breathes through all of them because she cannot afford any of them right now. Amara lifts her face from Diana's neck. Mama, she looks at Diana's face with the reading eyes of a child who has learned her mother's expressions the way you learn a language you depend on. Why did they tear up Daddy's check? Diana looks at her daughter, at the face that has survived 11 months of things that would have broken most adults. Because they were wrong, she says, and wrong things get fixed. She goes back inside. She has to. The surgical window. The deadline. Doctor raises voice saying if we move quickly. She has to go back inside because leaving means accepting that Dong Hyun has won, and Dong Hyun winning means Amara's surgical slot closes and Diana is not built for that outcome. The lobby goes quiet when the glass doors open and she pushes through them for the second time. This time she is different, still controlled, but the layer of professional patience has been replaced by something harder underneath it. She is a mother with torn pieces of her daughter's future in an envelope in her bag, and she has come back inside because she has no other option. She walks to the counter. You tore up my legal property, she says to Dong Hyun. in front of witnesses. I am telling you clearly that this was a legitimate check and I want it handled. Dong Hyun does not move from where he is standing. His expression does not change. The police are coming, he says. I suggest you use the time before they arrive to leave voluntarily. Diana takes out her phone. She is calling her husband, she says to the room, out loud, to the 12 customers and the staff and the security camera with its blinking red light. I am calling my husband. Young-soo makes a sound from behind the counter, something between a laugh and a dismissal. She says in Korean to Jae Hyun, her husband, the Korean businessman who signed the fake check. This should be entertaining. Jae Hyun adjusts her phone angle. Diana dials. Jinho answers before it rings. Did it clear? No, Diana's voice is level. Something happened. They tore up the check. They are calling the police. I am still in the bank. The silence that follows that sentence is 3 seconds long. Who do you have in front of you? Jinho says. The manager. His name is Kim Dong-hyun. Put him on the phone. Diana holds the phone toward Dong-hyun. My husband would like to speak with you. Dong-hyun looks at the phone, looks at Diana, and then he laughs, not privately, openly. He looks at Young-soo and he laughs the way people laugh when they want an audience. Your husband, he says, the Korean businessman, who signed the $5 million check that you walked in here with, he is calling now to rescue you. He looks at the phone and then back at Diana, and his voice drops into something that is not quite mockery and not quite contempt, but lives precisely in the space between them. Tell your husband, he says, whoever he actually is, that this is not how fraud works in my bank. Tell him the police are coming, and tell him that I do not take phone calls from people I have not verified. He turns his back. Diana holds the phone to her ear. Jinho's voice has changed. She has heard this voice exactly twice in 7 years of marriage. Both times things happened that were not reversed. Don't move, he says. I am sending Kang. The police arrive in 14 minutes. 2 officers. They come through the glass doors with the energy of officers who have been told there is a fraud situation and an uncooperative individual. They look at the lobby. They look at Dong Hyun standing with his arms crossed and his authority arranged on his face. They look at Diana standing in the middle of the lobby with Amara against her side. Dong Hyun speaks first. This woman came in attempting to pass a fraudulent check for $5 million. She has been told multiple times to leave and has refused. She became threatening when our security attempted to remove her. She reached into her bag in a way that alarmed our staff. And we have serious concerns about the child she has with her. She has not been able to verify adequately that this child is hers. The officers look at Diana. Can you verify your relationship to the child? One of them says. This is my daughter, Diana says. Her name is Amara Park. I have her birth certificate, medical records, photographs from birth to last week. She is undergoing treatment for leukemia and she needs to be at the hospital this morning for a procedure. She reaches into her bag and lays it all on the nearest counter. Birth certificate, medical records, the photographs. Amara's face at 6 months and 1 year and 3 years and last week, the same dark eyes looking at the same camera in the same way across 6 years of being loved. The officers review it. They look at Amara. Amara looks back at them with her father's steady eyes. The older officer says something quietly to the younger. The younger one nods. Ma'am, the older officer says, this is a private establishment. We are going to need you to step outside the property while we sort this out. Outside. Again. Diana looks at Dong Hyun, at Young-soo, at Jae Hyun whose phone is still recording, at the lobby full of people who have watched all of this and done nothing. She puts her hand on Amara's back. She walks outside. The pavement is the same pavement. The rain is the same rain. Diana stands on the sidewalk outside First Heritage Bank Koreatown branch for the second time, and the cold hits her, and hits Amara, and rain soaks back through the coat that had started to dry inside, and she stands there. Through the glass wall of the bank lobby she can see clearly. Young-soo is at her window. Jae Hyun is still on her phone, still filming, still watching the screen as she does it, watching the image of a soaked black woman standing outside in the rain with a sick child and finding it interesting. Finding it content worth capturing. 3 staff members visible from here, all on their phones, all pointed in her direction through the glass. Amara presses into Diana's side. Her body is shaking lightly. Not crying, just cold and tired and 6 years old and sick, and standing in the rain outside a bank because the color of her mother's skin was sufficient reason to put them both here. Mama. Yes, baby. Is everything okay? Diana looks at her daughter, at the face that has Jinho's eyes and her own stubborn mouth, and has survived 11 months of things that would undo most people. Yes, baby, everything is okay. Dad has handled everything. Amara looks up at her. What about the check? Diana pulls her closer. Don't worry about the check, baby. Dad will sort it out. We just need to get to the hospital for your appointment. That is the only thing that matters right now. Amara is quiet for a moment. Then she nods the way she nods when she has decided to trust something even though she does not fully understand it. The particular trust of a child in the parent who has never once let her down. She leans her head against Diana's shoulder. Diana looks down the street. 3 black SUVs turn the corner. They move with the particular controlled precision of vehicles that know exactly where they are going and have never had any doubt about arriving there. Not fast, not urgent in any visible way, just certain. The certainty of something that was always going to happen and has simply been waiting for the right moment. They pull up to the pavement in a line. The doors open. Men step out first, 4 of them from the first and third vehicles, dark coats, no visible insignia. They move to positions around the entrance with the practiced efficiency of people who have done this in many different locations and require no instruction about where to stand. Their eyes move across the street, the entrance, the people visible through the glass, in the specific methodical way of people whose job is to know what is in a room before their principal enters it. Then the door of the middle vehicle opens. Min Jun Kang steps out. He is 36 years old, and he has the kind of face that does not announce itself, but that you do not forget once you have seen it. He is Jinho's second in command, his most trusted person, the man who appears when Jinho cannot and whose presence alone tends to permanently alter the temperature of whatever room he enters. He is wearing a dark coat that the rain does not seem to affect. He takes in the street, the bank, the police officers standing near the entrance in approximately 2 seconds. Then he sees Diana. He sees Amara. He stops for one moment. One full second where something moves through his expression that his training and his discipline and his years of learning to show nothing cannot entirely contain. Because what he is looking at is Jinho's wife, soaked through on a pavement in the rain with Jinho's sick daughter pressed against her side, standing outside a building that threw them out, while staff inside film it on their phones. He contains it, but Diana sees it. She knows what that 1 second costs a man like Kang. Then he walks toward them. His men hold their positions around the entrance, without being told to. Mrs. Park. Kang. He looks at Amara, at the pink pom-pom hat darkened with rain. At the port he cannot see beneath the coat, but knows is there because he has known this family for 4 years, and he has sat in hospital waiting rooms while Amara went through things a 6-year-old should not have to go through. His jaw tightens in a way that is barely a millimeter and completely unmistakable. He looks at the glass doors. He looks at his men. He looks at Diana. May I? Diana steps aside. Kang walks through the glass doors of First Heritage Bank Korea Town Branch. His 4 men position themselves at the entrance behind him, not inside, at the threshold, present in a way that makes the doorway feel like it has become a different kind of door. The lobby does not freeze immediately. There is a moment, 2 or 3 seconds, where the staff register a Korean man in an expensive coat walking in and begin to arrange their professional expressions accordingly. Jai Hyun straightens slightly. Young Soo sets her phone down. Dong Hyun begins to move forward with the manager's authority. Then Dong Hyun looks at Kang's face. And Dong Hyun's manager's authority stops moving. Because Dong Hyun has seen this face before, not on a screen, not in a photograph, in a room, 18 months ago, a conference room on the 32nd floor of a building 4 blocks from here. A meeting about institutional investment partnerships, $47 million in combined deposits being discussed, the Park Global Holdings account, The account that Dong Hyan's regional director mentioned last quarter with the specific gravity of something that must not be disturbed under any circumstances whatsoever. At the head of that conference table, two men. One was Jin-Ho Park. The man to his immediate right, who said almost nothing for the entire meeting and whose silence was somehow the most significant presence in the room, was the man standing in this lobby right now. Dong Hyan's face drains. Not the gradual drain of embarrassment. The immediate total drain of a man who has just understood something in full, and the understanding is catastrophic. Young-soo sees his face and does not understand it yet. Jae-hyun has picked up her phone again, but she is no longer filming. She is starring. Baeum-seok, the security guard, is very still. Kang does not go to the counter. He does not ask for anything. He does not announce himself or explain why he is here. He stands in the center of the lobby and he takes out his phone and he dials and he puts the call on speaker and holds it at chest height. Jin-Ho's voice fills the room. Min-jun, tell me what you are looking at. Kang's voice is level. I am standing in the lobby of the Koreatown branch. I am looking at the branch manager who tore up your wife's check, called her a black woman as though that was the explanation, had her dragged outside twice with Amara, called the police on her, had her standing in the rain with your daughter while his staff filmed it for their phones. The silence on the line is very long. When Jin-Ho speaks again, his voice has the specific temperature of something that has moved entirely past emotion into decision. Close it, he says. Close the branch now. Nobody leaves, not one person. My wife and my daughter, get them taken care of immediately. The check, cash it through your account right now and get it to Dr. Ray's before that window closes. He pauses. Everything else, every person in that lobby who was involved in what happened to my wife this morning, they wait. They wait for me. Another pause. I will be there by morning. Kang lowers the phone. He looks at Dong Hyan. He looks at Young-soo. He looks at Jae-hyun. He looks at each person in that lobby, the way you look at something that has been clearly identified and clearly categorized, and will be dealt with at the appropriate time. His voice when he speaks is almost quiet. You heard him. Dong Hyan takes a step forward. His voice has lost everything that gave it authority. Sir, if I could just explain, if I had known who, if the account had been, if someone had told us that she was connected to Mr. Park, we would never have. Kang looks at him. Dong Hyan stops speaking. The bank employees who were on their phones are no longer on their phones. Jae-hyun's phone is in her pocket. Young-soo has both hands flat on her counter. Baeum-seok is standing against the wall. The officers near the entrance are making calls they did not expect to need to make this morning. The other customers, the 12 who have watched all of this, are quietly and efficiently guided out of the building by Kang's men. The doors close behind the last one. Only the staff remain. Outside, Diana is still standing in the rain with Amara when her phone buzzes. A message from Kang, 4 words. Check is being handled. Then another message 2 minutes later. Dr. Ray's has been called. The slot is held. Get in the car. Diana looks at the car that Kang's driver has kept running and warm at the curb. She looks at the dry blanket visible through the window that the driver is already reaching back to have ready. She looks at Amara. Come on, baby, she says. We are going to the hospital. She carries her daughter to the car and settles her into the back seat and wraps the dry blanket around her shoulders and holds her for a moment before buckling her in. Amara's face against her neck. The warmth of her. The too warm skin and the pink pom-pom hat and the port under her coat and the 6 years of her that Diana has carried through everything and will carry through everything still to come. The car pulls away from the curb. Through the rear window, Diana can see First Heritage Bank Koreatown branch with its lights on and its doors locked from the inside and the sign that has appeared in the window. Temporarily closed. The staff who were laughing through the glass 40 minutes ago are now sitting inside their own warm dry bank, and they are not laughing, and they are not going anywhere. Jin-Ho Park is somewhere over the Pacific on an earlier flight. He will land by morning. The question is not whether there will be a reckoning. The question is what kind. Because Jin-Ho Park is a man of significant legal resources and the kind of institutional power that destroys careers through documentation, and the proper channels. He is also a man whose name is said carefully in certain rooms for reasons that have nothing to do with his real estate portfolio. And the staff of First Heritage Bank Koreatown branch called his wife a black bitch, tore up his check, dragged his sick daughter through the rain twice, laughed at his voice, and filmed his wife's humiliation for their social media accounts. He has 14 hours to decide which version of himself handles this. And Diana is the only person in the world who has the influence to shape that decision. The car pulls away from the curb. Amara looks out the rain-blurred window at the city going past. Mama. Yes, baby. Are we going to be okay? Diana looks at her daughter, at the face that has survived 11 months of things that would have broken most adults, at the eyes that still look at the world with curiosity despite everything the world has shown them this morning. She thinks about Jinho's voice on the phone. Close it. Nobody leaves. She thinks about the check that is now moving through Kang's accounts toward Dr. Ray's, about the surgical slot that is going to be held, about the procedure that is going to happen, about the life that is going to be saved. Yes, baby, we are going to be okay. The car moves through the rain toward the hospital. Behind them, the bank sits closed and locked in the rain. And 14 hours from now, Jang Jinho will walk through those doors. Part 1 ends here. So here is the question this story leaves you with as we wait for Part 2. When Jinho Park walks into that bank, does he walk in as a husband seeking justice through lawyers and courts and public accountability? Or does he walk in as something older and colder and considerably more permanent? And what does Diana want? Because she is not a woman who needed saving. She is a woman who stood in the rain 3 times and did not break. She has her own idea of what justice looks like. What do you think should happen to the people who called his wife a black bitch, tore up his check, dragged his sick daughter through the rain, and laughed while they filmed it? Drop your answer in the comments. Part 2 is coming. And if you are not yet part of the Black Diamond Story family, subscribe now. You do not want to miss what happens when Jinho lands.